What's going on, my fellow Kino Lords? So I just got out of a screening for MaXXXine, which is the third and final film of Ty West's X trilogy, or Mia Goth trilogy, whatever you want to call it, the Girl Boss trilogy. And just to give a brief rundown of my thoughts towards the films in this trilogy so far, I liked X a decent amount. I was a bit surprised by that movie, and I think I actually liked that movie more than most people did at the time, at least. I give that movie like a soft 7 out of 10. I wasn't in love with it, but I did enjoy it. Pearl, I actually came out of the film a little bit underwhelmed. I mean, there were things about it that I enjoyed. Mostly Mia Goth's incredible performance. I thought she really, really carried that film. And I ended up giving that movie like a soft 6. So, I mean, I still enjoyed it. I just really didn't. I wasn't that in love with it. Walking out of MaXXXine, I gotta say that this is... to me, this is the lesser film amongst all three films. I actually can't say that I like this movie all that much. I mean, there's things about it that I enjoyed and liked, but I think as a whole, it's the most disappointing one. And for me, the reason why that is because despite the cool things that this movie does, because, I mean, again, it's a gigantic homage film, just like the other ones. So this one, it's kind of like on steroids. Like, it just pays homage to so many different styles of filmmaking, mostly the kind of like giallo slasher type era filmmaking, and also like neo-noir or just classic noir, you know, genre of filmmaking. But I mean, there's like tributes and homages all over the place when it comes to the iconography and the history of filmmaking itself. And again, like, some of that stuff was cool, but I feel like this film was worrying too much and being too concerned with paying homage to all this shit that it doesn't really have the strongest identity of its own. And it makes it to where it doesn't really have enough intrigue on its own merit. Like, there's not enough engagement or intrigue with character themes or narrative conflicts. It's just kind of like just hoping that the audience loves the homage element enough that they don't really care about, you know, how, you know, overdone the story is or how hollow the themes are. It's just kind of like, again, hoping that the film lovers will look at this and be like, okay, yeah, since it's paying homage and tribute to so much shit, therefore I'm you know, in love with it. Or hoping that, you know, the Mia Goth stans. I mean, I'm pretty much a Mia Goth stan. I fucking love her, like, in everything that I've seen. But, you know, that's not, like, enough for me to just enjoy the movie on its own. And it gets to where, like, again, like, it also contributes to my other biggest problem with the movie, too, where it's like, I simply just don't care about what's happening on screen. Like, there's, like, 80% of this movie, I simply just don't care about what's going on. There's no real sense of stakes, and even if characters get killed off, it just gets to the point where I'm like, I don't care about what happens in the movie. And to me, that is like a huge problem, because then I get really bored by it. Makes it to where, like, again, I'm not that invested into the material. I'm not that engaged, because I could kind of care less about what happens to the main character and other characters surrounding her character. And it's just disappointing because of that. And again, like, this movie has its moments. It's not to say that this movie doesn't have its moments, because there are a handful of moments in this movie where I thought that was pretty cool. That was like kind of a badass moment. That was a creative use of a needle drop. You know, because this movie does have a heavy use on like 80s music. And again, there's moments in this film where I thought like the use of 80s music is really fucking cool, and I like the way he used it. Kind of like in X, the first movie in the trilogy, where you have that "Don't Fear the Reaper" needle drop. That was a fucking epic moment. And here you have like one or two moments that are like that, but not nearly as effective. But you know, they're good for what they are. But it's just like, I don't know, it's just not enough. And also the fact that it's like a really cartoony fucking movie. You know, you have you know, Kevin Bacon's character, who, you know, his character in terms of costume design is obviously like paying homage to Jack Nicholson's character in Chinatown. But, you know, his character is like super fucking goofy and super cartoony. And, you know, again, maybe that's the point. Maybe, you know, I'm not supposed to take really any of it seriously. I'm supposed to just, you know, have fun with it, laugh along with it. And I mean, I tried, but it's just really hard to feel invested in, like, in my opinion. And that goes for, like, again, like all the other characters in this movie. It just feels, again, like caricatures of characters and not genuine characters. And again, it just, with a movie like that, especially with a film that has mostly like a serious horror tone, a serious horror atmosphere, I feel like there's like some kind of like awkward imbalance in tone, because I feel like the comedy it doesn't really embrace the comedy overtly enough. Like it doesn't embrace the ridiculousness overtly enough for me to feel like I can just play along with how absurd and overdone things are. You know, especially with what it builds up to in the finale. The finale was quite ridiculous and a bit predictable. And, you know, especially again, like with this film presenting this whole like homage to the giallo slasher era of horror, you know, the way it's portraying it, like you can tell right away that the villain in this movie, the slasher in this movie, is a like sexually repressed character. And, you know, with all the mentions of like religion in this movie, and like the whole like exploration of, you know, Satanism in Hollywood, you can tell that, you can already like infer, again, spoiler, if you really don't want to hear anything that's even mildly like spoilery, I'd suggest you just kind of click away. But like you can just tell that the villain in this movie, the slasher, is going to be like this repressed religious fucking nut job. And then when you link that to, like, again, Mia Goth's character, you're like, I wonder who is also a repressed religious nut job in relation to her character. You know, if you watched X, you kind of can already infer that. So like when the ending reveal happens, it's like kind of like duh. Like it's like it didn't do anything like really that groundbreaking with that. You could see it kind of coming from a mile away. And yeah, I don't know. And then also I feel like this movie had a lot of potential to do other things that were more interesting, because instead of, so you have this main plot line with MaXXXine, who is, again, she's trying to transition from being an adult film star into being an actual film star in real movies. So in the beginning, we see her auditioning for a part, and she lands a part, and the part that she's playing isn't a horror movie, and it's this very like religious B-grade horror movie that, you know, culturally speaking, people are protesting because of its, you know, blasphemous depiction of the religion. And I just feel like this film would have been a lot more interesting if it really focused on Mia Goth's character, like transitioning from being an adult film star into being a film star, in terms of seeing her being on set and producing this film with this director character that, again, we spend time with. So the film kind of wants you to get to know this female director character, but we don't ever see them like doing any film production together at all. And it's weird. It kind of teases this really interesting plot point of them making this wild like satanic horror movie, and we don't get to see like any of that. Like instead of spending time to focus on developing character themes through this lens of her like struggling, you know, in this adult to film star transition, instead we just focus on, you know, a lot of like outside mystery slasher stuff, noir type shit, that we meet one character after another, and then there's this, you know, again, mysterious thrilling plot that we have to try to unfold. But it's just that element of the movie that it focuses more on outside of the film production and character theme stuff is just not all that interesting, because it's stuff that we have seen a million times before. And, you know, again, I get that it's a homage film, but if it's not offering enough of its own thing, whether it be narratively or stylistically or even thematically, then I don't feel like I am interested in it. Like, I just feel like what was interesting and more interesting was following her through this whole like film production thing. Like, I wish we would have gotten more of her on set with this director, seeing some conflicts and struggles there, and maybe some weird horror slasher element thrown in the mix there. But instead, thematically, it feels dull. Narratively, it's stuff that we've kind of seen a lot already, and it's just, I feel like it drops the ball by just, again, worrying too much about being this tribute movie to movies and genres that he loves. But I don't know, it's just, I unfortunately was bored by it because of this, because I didn't feel any sense of emotional or even thematic attachment to any of the characters in this movie, and that I just felt like was a shame. So I don't know, like, again, I wouldn't say it's a bad movie, but I really can't say that this is a good movie in my opinion. I just really didn't enjoy it that much. So I know that might be disappointing to some people out there, but that is just kind of how I feel about it. But I mean, I probably just won't say much more about it at that point. But I'll give this movie a solid to strong 5 out of 10. Just really wasn't for me. I think there are people that enjoyed it. There's people in the theater that were clapping. So, obviously I might be kind of an oddball for giving it a score that low, but that's just kind of how I felt about it. But anyway, that's all I got to say about the movie. Sorry, it's not the most positive review, but that was unfortunately just the way I'm feeling walking out of it. Maybe, who knows, on a rewatch, knowing what it is, maybe I can enjoy it a little more. But as of right now, that is my grade. So, but that's it. If you really enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it amongst your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be updated on more film-related content.